meeting of the Planning Commission of Marquette Township on October 11th, 2023 is called to order at 7 p.m. We have a roll call.
Bethany Cody, Lake Enchantment.
Linda Winslow, Norwood Street.
Jason McCarthy, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Dennis Ferraro, 238 Eagles Nest Road. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Any changes suggested, or is it appropriate? All in favor of approving the agenda? Or I guess we should entertain a motion.
Motion second, yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting of September 13th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 13th, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I will announce the public comment section, but I don't see any public present. So we will move on to new business. We have a special use permit public hearing request. Kevin,
Yeah, short-term rental for, what is it, 409?
Oh, do you want this?
this is 340 West Baraga,
Is the mailing address.
the mailing address.
Yep. The property address in the packets, and I apologize for not providing that in the actual document, is 409 County Road 550. So this is right across the street, and if you look at Chairperson Johnson requested this type of map for you when we hear or receive a special use permit for another short-term rental. So the green dot furthest north here is the existing short-term rental that is attached to Phil's 550 store. And the application is right across the street, the small house across the street. It's actually on a pretty small parcel too.
Like where the A sits?
Just north of the A, yep.
Oh, okay, see that little?
Yeah, it's a very
Square.
small triangle piece. So we received a fairly complete application. One of the things that I asked the applicant to provide prior to the public hearing is a copy of a survey, which he said he would provide, and then a copy of the well and septic permit from the county health department, which also came, with the house, so he should be able to acquire those two things. But he, provided a narrative, and we provided the zoning map for him. But this is the relative density of short-term rentals existing in this particular area. It would be nearly impossible to show the entire township and all the short-term rentals. So I think what we'll do, if it's okay with you, in these situations, is provide an area in zoom out as much as we can and still have it be relative to the application. But so yeah, that is a small single-family structure. And they're looking for a public hearing, I believe, on November 8th. We only have one meeting in November and one meeting in December, so we'll probably have some things that'll come and get piled up on these last few agendas for the year, which is hard to believe, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions of Jason on this or discussion? All right, Chair would entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing on this matter on November 8th, 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the special use permit public hearing request for 409 County Road 550, proposed short-term rental for the public hearing scheduled for November 8th.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right, let's move on to item 6B. So it's going to be a similar issue. Jason?
Yes, we've received an application, if you remember the two tiny homes that we placed on a single lot. According to the applicant, and you can feel free to read through the narrative if you haven't already, but it's somewhat of a financial issue to them to try and apply for a short-term rental for these two. I know initially they indicated they were going to go long-term with traveling nurses and the like. I guess unfortunately, those haven't panned out, and they have expressed a desire to try to convert those to a short-term rental.
Is this a request for both or just for one?
No, for both.
Okay.
Yep, for the property itself, for the parcels. So, after, of course, you guys approved the tiny home application, we assigned 400A and 400B County Road 550 as an address for those two structures. Mr. Lepinen and Kevin Thompson, obviously our business partners, provided a pretty thorough application with some photos. And I would suggest if you get a chance to go out there and check them out. They're sensitively located on the property. And I thought that Aaron did a good job with his narrative. And I'm not saying, for or against the application, but I think the information he provided was reasonable and complete, along with the site plan and their mortgage report survey. And of course, they have the well and septic permit that was acquired at the time of the tiny home construction. So,
Is access just to the north of the Phil's 550? You can just go around the parking lot and go into the back?
that's correct. There's a single access.
And I mean, it's public. I mean, we can go on there and take a look.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I wanted to do that before, but I thought, well, maybe.
So typically, there's a checkbox on these applications. If the applicant is not the property, oh no, not that one. Usually they provide, and I can contact them if you'd like to do that and just say, hey, we may have some planning commissioners coming to take a look. I don't think that'll be a problem at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's that necessary. It was just, it'd be nice to look at it,
Yeah.
we okayed it, it'd be nice to see. And do we have any idea how much the construction cost was for one of these?
They were $150,000 a piece
150 piece, okay.
installed. So that's
Was it
with
Dickinson that
electric.
did this, or who did this? You know?
No, I don't believe so. I think they did look at Dickinson's
Yeah.
homes, but I think that they were purchased from another vendor.
Uh-huh.
I think Dickinson's were even more pricey than that.
And what's the square footage again, do we know? Does it show it on here?
Well, they're 450 or less, so they're probably right at the 450 level.
450, okay.
And I'm with you, Jenny.
Yeah, they're
I would
450
love to go see them.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at them.
It's kind of the future of construction. They're very efficient.
They prefab and then put together?
They came on a trailer, I believe, and then were assembled kind of in place in a matter of hours, really, at least the shell.
Yeah, I'm sure Kevin would do that for us.
Yeah.
And when you say it was 150 a piece, did that include the hookup? I can't remember, was there a pre-existing septic and well that was that Phil's used?
The well was there on site. The septic had to be right-sized for the two structures,
So
I
it's a new
believe.
septic for
Yep.
both of these?
So they were 150 piece all in, from my understanding in the conversation with
Okay.
Mr. Lebanon.
That's not bad, that's really not bad for,
For 450 square feet.
well, I know, but then you can
I'd have to do the math. but
put a $100,000 profit on it.
Bethany could give you this price per square foot, which is probably somewhat astronomical.
And what's it got? Like, has it got like more than one bedroom, or do you know?
I don't know. No, I have not been out there to check him out. I don't know if he says it in his narrative.
333.
So 333 per square foot.
What's the going amount?
I mean, it used to be a good deal was like 125 a square foot.
Yeah, it's
But
been over 3 lately.
in commercials, on par with that, I would assume, yeah.
But I mean,
3 to 4.
figuring like what people can afford to buy who are looking to get into the housing market, something like this is,
Yeah, it's ideal, yeah.
you know. Okay.
So do you want to ask Kevin for us?
Yes, I will follow up with you on that question and get back to you. I don't, like I said, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. Especially if you schedule the public hearing, they're gonna wanna, get as much information out to you guys as possible.
Okay,
I can't
so,
remember if it was this one or another one, but I felt like there was room on this lot to do more if they wanted to do more of these tiny lot homes, or was that?
I don't believe so, Bethany, because the well and septic were sized appropriately for the 2 structures. So I think if they were to add more, they would have to alter that. But potentially, but again, we have to, I mean, we look at 2 structures on one property as them both being saleable on their own. So that was another,
So if that,
variable in the equation.
if that had been a planned unit development, if they had come with that,
It wouldn't have qualified.
it wouldn't
Yeah.
have qualified. It would have to be a larger space.
Yep, planned unit developments have a minimum of 5 acres.
Okay, but you could do a 5-acre planned unit development for short-term, or
Tiny homes?
for tiny homes?
Yes, you could, yeah, because effectively, the PUD process is a bending of the ordinance within certain parameters, so either it's setbacks, minimum lot sizes, structure size, et cetera. I think we'll see more of those come, by the way. That's a good question. I could see a PUD for a cluster of tiny homes being on the same property, or that type of subdivision even.
Yeah, really. We have a housing crunch here. That could be we just need an investor, right?
all right, so Chair will entertain a motion on item 6B to schedule a public hearing for a short-term rental on this tiny home at Phil's 550, behind Phil's 550.
I'll make that motion.
Support. Second?
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't hear it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, item 6C.
So these are the recommended, from department heads and the manager, list of capital improvement requests for 2024 and beyond. Some of these you'll recognize from years past because they weren't accomplished. Some of them have been taken off. But effectively, looking for a recommendation from the planning commission to move these to the board. The board has begun their budget meetings, and so as it happens, timing is of the utmost importance with the requests. The majority of these you'll see from the Public Works Department and the Fire Department. Planning and zoning didn't have anything. I don't believe assessing had anything necessarily. And then there was one special one from the Recreation Committee, and then kind of verified by the manager requesting the resurfacing of the tennis courts at Lions Field. So that would be a sport court type of resurface, which is required anyway, typically every, 10 years or so. And the resurfacing of the court would include striping for both pickleball and tennis. So that is a estimated $20,000 to $30,000 project, and the board will be entertaining that one. But the other ones are typically, and you'll find they may be somewhat confusing, but they are fall under the Public Works Department's capital improvement, which is usually what CIPs are for, is more for roads and infrastructure. But as we're a township and we don't control our roads, that falls under mostly just DPW stuff.
I have a question, and it's probably a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway. I noticed that everything that's titled General Fund has a box filled in with dollar amounts for revenue generated. Does that mean that some revenue has already been generated for that project and it's being held in escrow for that project? Because some of the other ones don't have that. Like,
So in the column under current allocation balance, you'll see what's accrued.
oh, so this other chart refers to all the projects.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, some are in the process of being funded, some are in the process of being funded annually and have been and will continue to be, and then some are new ones that have not been funded that are, going to need to be allocated.
Well, my impression is that we generally, if they go to the trouble of putting this together, and I see that most of them say essential, urgent. So I imagine that we should do this year, or we can do this year, what we always do is ask for a motion to approve and pass on to the township board for their consideration.
consideration.
And that's it, right?
Yeah,
I don't think.
that's why we kicked the packet out early, also was to give you guys a chance to kind of drill into this a little further, because it was a CUP packet, and
Is the Forestville to Huron Woods road resurfacing, is that
that's a project that's been deferred.
been deferred? So it was even before the long year
Yes.
application?
We
Okay.
deferred it with the assumption that the intersection at some point would be updated, and at that time, instead of ripping it up again, some brand-new materials and top, that we would wait until something happened there to spend that money, so we didn't have to spend it twice, essentially.
Or if Longyear gets the final approval, they would pay for it.
Or, correct, and we would reallocate that. Now, I have heard the manager talk about potentially using that money that's budgeted for, perhaps a in-kind match for a larger grant or something that may come up later on. So,
Okay, are there any questions of Jason regarding this item 6C?
and I will say that if you have any questions specific to one of the department heads, please feel free to, email and ask about it. They're always, they work for you just like I do, so if you do have any questions on those, feel free to.
They've been,
shoot
we've
an
had a
email.
couple of the people in here in the past that have been very helpful
Yeah.
explaining some of this stuff. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion on item 6C of the agenda to recommend to the township the consideration of the CIP request for 2024. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed CIP request.
I'll support that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
So just note that the fire department did not put in any capital requests this year.
Oh, so it's all DP, yeah.
Yep, they are, waiting the arrival of an ambulance, which has been, funds have been allocated for. And they are also awaiting the arrival of a new fire truck, which has also been paid for. So, they didn't have anything to add. There was discussion today, a little bit at the budget meeting, that they would be resurfacing the tennis court, pickleball court, so, yeah. So, I think that's how it goes, right?
It'd be nice to, again, expand our available uses at Lions Field. I think in the last 10 years, we've done a great job of adding a lot of variety to the park.
Wasn't there a project connected to the ice rink? Has that been completed?
No, well, the ice rink actually gets a lot of roller hockey use in the summer months, so I think the board didn't want to have a dual purpose court, or the surface of the ice rink. They didn't want to use it as a pickleball court, so this was another option for the board, and we're still hoping to secure some park property in a centrally located area to this area, Trowbridge Park, hopefully in the future. We'll see where that goes, but that, if that's successful, that'll lend us to really put down probably some kind of award-winning,
Is that park that you were trying to get the grant for up in this area, is that completely dead, that whole project now, or are you thinking of reapplying for another grant?
At this time, it's put away on the shelf. However, the property owners now have some brokers working for them, and they have done some conceptual renderings of what it could look like with commercial, residential, a mix of both. In all of those renderings, it shows a 6-acre park on the design. So I can't tell you any more than that, but whether or not they donate that as an in-kind match, I think it depends largely on if they're able to sell the property, what they're able to get for the property, and if they get enough, it may be an in-kind or a donation to the township with perhaps some strings attached to it, like, naming rights and perhaps some of the land uses that would be found there. Or, and I'm hoping to have an answer on this by the end of the year so that we can reapply should it be necessary for us to secure funds to purchase it outright.
Okay, let's move to unfinished business. There's none at this time, so let's move to number 8. Correspondence from Longyear, final PUD application, supporting documents. Jason, what do we need to know about that?
So I wanted to get this in your hands as early as possible, but you have in front of you an application for the final PUD, along with narrative and really responses to all of the comments that have been made and some further information in there. And then you have a copy of the site plan for phase 1A, which is really the only approval that we've provided. So out of that whole, 240 some odd unit development, we're really only looking at the first phase, which is,
30 units, 20
Something like
24,
that,
between
yeah.
24 and 30 units.
Yeah, so if you look in there, you'll see now that we've approved the conceptual or preliminary PUD, there's a lot more detail in these plans. So it shows more of the density, the setbacks, the types of structures that, we saw conceptually what those structures were gonna look like. But now these are kind of full bore site plan documents with, utility information, depths, diameters of
Did the
infrastructure.
stormwater drainage plat or blueprint, is that essentially the same as it was?
Yes, but it's more detailed now,
Okay.
as far as what's gonna be required, and it has to meet our ordinance. We have like the Cadillac of stormwater ordinances in the townships.
So have they already gone through that, working with the, no, who, do we have a stormwater ordinance department separate from you?
The DPW department and Superintendent Bodanis is in charge of administering the stormwater ordinance. In this case, if it moves forward, we'll likely have some kind of condition attached to the planning commission's motion. Let's say if it was approved, okay, then we would have a condition that would send that out for review probably by a qualified engineer. In this case, it's a little tricky because the drain commissioner is Mike Farrell, who works for Longyear. And normally we would send these off to a gentleman named Carr Baldwin, who works for UP Engineers and Architects. It may be Carr. If he's still practicing, Carr's probably in his mid-80s, but very sharp. And so if not, we'll find somebody like Trimedia or whoever's necessary to review.
So if you would think back in your time here to other PUDs that have been developed, have any of them been developed near a waterway that drains into Lake Superior?
Well, that's a great question. So the only two PUDs that we've entertained since my tenure here, since 2011, have been in the last 2 years. So
Silo.
Heritage Silos and this one. So it's kind of a new thing for you and I, to be honest with you. But with that, we've got multiple eyes looking at it. We've got our attorney, Roger Zappa, looking at this. We've got our DPW Superintendent Bodanis, myself, whoever the review engineer is. I don't believe that because of the topography in this area that any of those projects, they're on like the downward slope of where that property is. When you consider like the grand scheme of the property, it kind of slopes down, and then there's a ridge that drops back down towards the road. So I don't think, but yeah, I know that you've had some issues out on Eagles Nest, or not an issue, but a potential construction application out there. And of course, yes, I mean, our stormwater ordinance definitely speaks to, you cannot drain off-site. You have to retain or detain.
Yeah, I guess what I was concerned about with this, particularly since there's, even if they only build 100, because of the road thing. And I know there's a state statute that regulates phosphate and nitrogen, but you think about all the lawns that are gonna be there, and the fertilizer that's gonna be put on the lawns, and then you have the dead river there, and the dead river goes right into the lake. So where are these fertilizer byproducts gonna end up? Are they gonna end up in the dead river, are they gonna end up in the lake? I just wondered if that's something that the stormwater people look at, or is that an Eagle issue, or?
Well, it's a question I don't have the answer to for you this evening,
Oh, that's okay.
but can definitely check in with Alyssa and the Longyear team and have them be prepared to answer that for you at the next.
Yeah, that would be a question that I would ask, because this really is close to a waterway, to the lake. And
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would say, a crazy story is living and working in Ashland, Wisconsin up until 2011, when I came back here. So from 2008 to 2011, they still had combined storm and sanitary that would dump into Lake Superior in the Chequamegon Bay. Up until just before I left, they closed off the last one. So I would say most communities along Lake Superior have done a really good job of and complying with state and federal regulations that would prevent that. But yeah, we those things have by and large have gone away. But to your point about potential fertilizers and other types of effluent that aren't accounted for, I'll certainly have them report on that for you.
Yeah, so they're gonna be, okay, great, thank you.
Okay, anything else you want to tell us about that now, or?
No, if you, look through, and you'll get this prior to the next meeting, but, I'm going through the checklist basically in the ordinance, and if you want to look ahead, it's, 1306, and then your Article 1306 in your ordinance, and then you're going to be looking at Section 1307. I'm sorry, Article 13 is your PUD article in the ordinance. 1306 talks about the final PUD application and requirements, and 1307 will be the parameters for which you review it. It's very similar to a site plan review.
that our next October meeting?
That'll still be on the 25th. And quite honestly, you know, one way or another, looking forward to getting this off of our plate, because it's been a project now that, and it really won't go away, considering they are able to have a decent absorption rate. You know, they'll be
Right.
back for the next phase and kind of go through this all again, but at least we'll be educated and more informed, and not that it needs to be a smoother process. I think that it's went fairly smoothly, but you know, there'll be either less scrutiny based on their performance or more scrutiny based on their lack of performance, and we'll have to, you know.
Have they shared with you at all the number of commitments that they have for purchase?
They have not. They have indicated that they have over 100 people on a waiting list.
How many of those are from Marquette Township, do we know?
That would be a question you have to ask them, yeah.
0.
It's not 0. I doubt it's 0.
A half, maybe.
I doubt it's more than half, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of Jason on this? Okay. Item number 9, Linda, Township Board Report.
The Township Board met on Wednesday, October 4th, and the meeting lasted for 30 minutes, and there was actually nothing really discussed. A little information about the early voting plan, which means that you can vote early now, and it will be held here at the Township, and we will be collaborating with Powell Township, so that means that Powell Township and Marquette Township will vote here in early voting. And so we'll have to see how that all goes, but yeah, 30 minutes and we were done.
Bing, bang, boom.
Bing, bang, boom, yeah, we said,
How was that facilitated, the cooperation between Marquette and Powell
Powell
Township on this?
I think they,
Randy, was it Randy?
I think the county looked at what would facilitate use of resources best. And so many of the places are partnering up, I'll call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just these two townships, it's other townships.
Is other townships too. Randy could actually answer that question. But yes, the small townships are, yeah, I mean, they may have 5 people, 5 groups partnering at a central location. It's going to be expensive to do this. You have to have 3 people at each poll. If you think of it that way. So that means 3 employees from all day.
Well, I'm gonna send mine in on paper.
I know. Lots of people did that last time, so we'll see. We'll see how it all works out.
Anything else then from the township?
Not that I can think of. Jason, did I miss anything? No.
I don't believe so.
Okay, Recreation Committee report.
So the rec committee met last month, and they put together and forwarded along the CIP request for the tennis court. That was the gist of that meeting. The road committee met again earlier this month, and they're still contemplating their meeting schedule, amongst other things, but Eric wanted me to relay that they're looking at downsizing the amount of meetings that they have per year. So right now, there's one every month, just like there's the rec committee. Rec committee is a little bit more important, especially when you're applying for state grants, because they want to see that if you have a committee that you're meeting regularly. But the road committee, perhaps not as vital. So they are looking at reducing the amount of meeting minutes, or meetings, period. Planning and zoning report. Let's see, we came back, obviously the last week has been pretty much it was a conference week, which was great. As I said, there was only over 500 planners there. A lot of discussion on housing, which was helpful. So the accessory dwelling units we're going to be talking about this winter. I know we broached that earlier in the year, but we got kind of busy. So I'm hoping to get you guys some draft language on perhaps allowing that. I thought we're kind of ahead of the game a little bit, except for the accessory dwelling units. So geodesic domes, we'll be talking about. We already allow tiny homes, we are already allow short-term rentals. Those are all things that allow either flexibility in housing or allow families to keep their homes in their name, as opposed to, I don't want to pay taxes on that, I'm going to sell it off to somebody.
So we do allow geodesic domes already?
Yeah, well, it's something that we've yet to define, but we've received confirmation from the county building codes department, which is really where the first question goes, because if we approve something, we don't want it to be shot down then by the county because they don't know how to review it or something like that, or don't have any provisions for it. So those things will be coming to you. Yeah, the population thing I thought was really interesting about, not only are we an aging population, but we're not having the recharge that we've had in years past. So deaths have surpassed births in the state, and those lines kind of were like this for a long time, and now they've converged, and in the same token that they have been converging, they're expected to continue to go the other way in their respective directions, which is sad in effect. But Michigan unfortunately has suffered from the brain drain of brilliant people moving to other states.
Well, except for this room.
Except for this room. And I will say, except for Marquette Township and Marquette County, okay? So our area is still really attractive. Eric and I kind of looked at each other like, okay, well, that's not consistent for our community. We've been growing in Marquette Township consistently for the last 3 census reports. So
That's notwithstanding the withdrawals from the mines and the Air Force Base.
the Air Force Base, yeah. If you have outstanding recreation opportunities, educational opportunities, and good health care, you're going to attract people. I mean, we have a high quality of life here, and I think that's one of the reasons. So now it's just about massaging gap funding for housing and allowing those things to kind of take their shape. We did receive some legislative updates. A very interesting one I found was that one that's going to the state Supreme Court that we get to watch throughout the week next week is when we first got a drone in the township. I remember just after receiving the drone and kind of using it for site plan stuff, that I was told at the first conference that I attended not to use it for property maintenance because it's a violation of Fourth Amendment rights, search and seizure, etc. So there's a case that was downstate where a guy had a bunch of junk vehicles. Instead of the township at the time telling the property owner that he had to get rid of them, he just told him not to have any more, which I thought was odd, instead of enforcing the ordinance. That the neighbor complained later on that he had, in fact, more vehicles on the property, so they sent up a drone to confirm. And the ZBA, he appealed the decision to use the drone to the ZBA. It went to circuit court, and of course, at circuit court, there's not many. A lot of circuit court judges these days will side with property owners because they're not really schooled in zoning and land use issues anymore. It's all family and criminals and drugs and things like of that nature. So it ended up going to the state Supreme Court. And I think what's going to happen, and what the presenter, which is one of our township attorneys down at Michigan Township Association, Mrs. Bachman, she indicated that she thinks it's going to be overruled, and that because it's not a criminal violation, it's a civil violation, that the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to a civil case as it would a criminal case. Very interesting. I mean, it's juicy morsels for a zoning administrator, but
When Eric goes out on enforcement issues, does he needs permission of the owner to enter the property, otherwise he's a trespasser, right?
that's correct. Yep. Or you can obtain a warrant. And so that was the other thing that you could do with the drone, if you wanted to use the drone, would be to just obtain a warrant. This stuff will probably never happen in our community. Furthermore, and the thing I found most interesting was that we have access to Google Earth, and especially in more populated areas like downstate, those images are updated on the regular almost every year. Now up here, it's only once every couple of years or 2 or 3 years. But I don't know why those can't, I mean, we use those all the time for property maintenance, so, it's just an interesting, things that other people, other communities deal with. There was also something in the Land Division Act where they're trying to change that law that would allow 10 acres to be split up to 10 times without a permit, which is interesting because normally if you do more than 4, you're required to go through the subdivision, whatever subdivision control ordinance is for your community. So we'll compile all that stuff. We're waiting to get a copy of the sessions that we've attended, the slides, and then we would hope to present some of those more interesting ones to you. But a lot of technical stuff. And yeah, it was just good to network and talk to people that deal with the same issues that you do.
Was there anybody, other than yourself and Eric, was there anybody else from Marquette County that was there?
Yes, I believe the zoning administrator from Negaunee Township was there, or one of their representatives. I don't know if it was a planning commissioner. It's mostly staff down there at that one. And then Brad Newman from the city and from Michigan State Extension was there as well. So we got to talk with him and have lunch with him.
All right, any questions?
Do you want to talk about solar? We're going to put up solar power.
Well, you guys already approved that.
I know. So they're going to attempt to do that this year.
Oh, is that right?
I think so. I think
What
they're
are we
going to
talking
attempt to get the solar power going.
Oh, they put the panels and stuff
Put
that
the
you guys
panels
Oh,
up
that
and
we
stuff.
approved.
That we approved. And then hoping that makes a difference on the electric bill.
Okay, moving on to item number 10, announcements. Any announcements? Okay, we have no public, so there could be no public comment. Any additional comments by planning commissioners?
I just have one thing. Today I sent out an article about the state is proposing an oversight of the solar wind energy needs, which would mean we as a planning commission wouldn't be making those.
Yeah, that was
Roles.
discussed too. It's
Yeah.
not just solar, it's wind as well.
Right, solar and wind. I can send the article. I didn't even think about us.
Is the state agency that's going to be overseeing?
It's the lawmakers. I'll send it and then you can read it and see what you get out of
So you
it.
gotta think about this, gang, okay?
We're a small.
People that used to be lobbyists for these industries are now the lawmakers. And our governor has a big renewable energy initiative that she's kicking off. And you have to think that one of the only ways for that to be successful is that if they don't get a lot of pushback from, the municipalities where they want to put it. Now, they're looking at GIS data to determine where best solar, where best wind is. I mean, around here we have predominant northwest wind direction. So you would take high hilltops such as Skaney and Arvon Township, north of Lawrence, those areas that are up high and have a lot of wind.
We've already seen what the local people in Lance can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they amended their ordinance real quick.
They
Yeah.
stopped it, yeah.
But these people want to have the government in Lansing in charge of it.
Oh, I see, remove this from the power of the local
Yeah.
entity.
Yeah.
And so it's in
It's-
the legislature. It said today.
It's very akin to gravel too. Like gravel has went back and forth for years. Sometimes the law benefited the gravel extractor, and sometimes the law benefits the municipality for being able to protect neighborhoods and things like that.
Whatever happened to the wind farm that Rich Vanderveen was promoting out in Sands Township?
I don't know that there's a wind farm going out
No,
there.
I'm sorry, not wind farm.
There was
I
a solar
I misspoke.
proposal.
I admit.
I'm not sure what stage that's at, or if
It's
it's,
been pending now for at least 3 years.
Mhm.
Just wondered the hold up on it.
Anyways,
Okay.
it says on here they introduced the bills yesterday, and they want to move them through fast.
Okay, any additional comments? If not, unless there's really strenuous objections, we're going to adjourn this meeting at 7:46 PM.